This video is brought to you by Loot Crate, the monthly subscription box for epic geek and gamer items and pop culture gear. The worldwide release of Suicide Squad immediately had people asking, wait, what the hell happened here? Where's all that stuff that was in the trailers? Wasn't the Joker supposed to be in this more? What's going on? This video aims to clarify what was removed from the cinematic cut and get into some of the goings-on behind the scenes using official reports, prominent rumors, the shooting schedules, and interviews with the cast and director. Also, if you hang around to the end, you can win a Loot Crate and find out who won the one from last Sunday. That's a bloody fact, mate. Okay, so the problem stemmed back to the inception of Suicide Squad, with David Ayer reportedly only being given 6 weeks to develop a script. This stemmed from the pressure of Warner Brothers making huge marketing deals that included merchandise and branding partners. So once the film was dated, a source at The Hollywood Reporter reported, then that deadline had to be met. And it was suggested that David Ayer, who'd had limited experience with tentpole filmmaking, would have largely benefited from being given more time to develop the story. Seasoned filmmakers apparently steer clear of projects like these because they like to take 5 or more years to have a clear understanding in terms of the finished product. Just look at how long James Cameron took to make Avatar. He announced that film back in 1996 and then had to wait for technology to catch up to his vision of monkey cat people and their love for an internet tree. Often though, this process can work out as it's an openly collaborative journey, such as with a lot of Marvel projects. Other times, it turns into a complete heap of shit, like Fantastic Four and Alice Through the Looking Glass, presumably I haven't seen it. So principal photography wrapped, a trailer was shown at Comic-Con and then subsequently leaked, forcing Warner Brothers to release it officially. The response to this was largely positive, as the promise of a dark supervillain-led project with the introduction of Harley Quinn and a brand new Joker seeming very enticing. Fast forward to the release of Batman v Superman, shot as a 3-hour film and then cut down to 151 minutes, which ended up not being the critical and commercial hit that the studio wanted. Now, whenever I say something like this, there's inevitably comments like, hey, I loved it. That movie made $872.7 million worldwide. Yeah, no, I know. But seeing as it houses 2 or even 3 of the most iconic superheroes of all time, and on a budget of $250 million, plus roughly double that for marketing, this movie inevitably ended up less well received and less profitable than Man of Steel. Batman v Superman should have cleared $1 billion easy. I mean, comparatively, Deadpool, a relatively unknown comic book character, made $782 million off a $58 million budget, roughly double for marketing. That's the general rule. This reaction to Batman v Superman apparently rattled the higher-ups at Warner Brothers. CEO Kevin Tsujihara was apparently really pissed about the damage to the brand, because funnily enough, BVS had limited studio involvement. Zack Snyder was pretty much left to his own devices to craft this story with his team. And I'd imagine the lesson they took from that was, well, let's not let that happen again. So Jeff Johns was promptly promoted to president of DC Entertainment, a role he sort of had already, I guess? Except, now they meant it for real. Please fix things, Jeff. Zack Snyder made Batman a murderer and Superman a murderer again, they said. That's what they probably said to him. So a bunch of Suicide Squad reshoots were scheduled for April of 2016. Now, this is not uncommon at all, and the official stance of Warner Brothers was that they were giving Ayer more money to make the best movie possible. But concurrently, rumors were circulating that the goal was to add levity, with others suggesting the idea was to fix the problems with the third act. You probably remember the Bohemian Rhapsody trailer that followed what we got from Comic-Con. That was incredibly well received, and I believe it was this that prompted Warner Brothers to want to produce something more in line with that than what was initially planned. So 2 cuts of the film were developed, with David Ayer suggesting that it was closer to 6 or 7. But rumors stipulate one was the director's cut, which Ayer refers to as an anarchic punk rock art movie, which was more in line with his original vision, and the other was through Trailer Park, a company that worked on the Suicide Squad trailers and that normally deals with making trailers. Test audiences reportedly favoured the Trailer Park version, so steps were made by the studio, and with the assistance of Ayer, to work towards a final cut that was an amalgamation of the 2, which was referred to as the dossier cut, as it includes how the characters arrived at Belle Reve, and added little things like the animated introductions. Now in hindsight, I'm not surprised that something lighter was favoured, and that's what they were moving towards, because there have been indications for a while. I mean, just look at how the logo developed from gunmetal grey to this. Ayer maintains, though, that the final cut we got was his cut. But there was rumors of tension behind the scenes, with the director dropping, then rehiring his management in June, and Warner Brothers refusing to pick up his Will Smith-led project, Bright, which ultimately ended up on Netflix. So basically, this movie seems to have more editors than the credits indicate. John Gilroy of Pacific Rim is solely mentioned, but it's rumored with the final version, Michael Tronick, of Straight Outta Compton stepped in to finish the job after Gilroy left. So I guess this all leads us up to what got cut. Well, there is a list of rumored scenes that were removed that's been anonymously posted to Reddit. Now, I can't speak to the validity of these, so I'm not really going to touch on them. But what I'm going to do for the rest of the video is post this right here, and the remainder of the time with us together can be spent with you just reading them quietly to yourself. Nah, not really, I got more stuff to say, but I'd say this is worth going through. Feel free to pause it and take a look, even if it's from the perspective of whether or not any of this turns out to be true. Okay, so David Ayer has stated that about 10 minutes of this project was cut. But listening to the actors and their press junket interviews, I would be shocked if it was only 10 minutes. Now, as mentioned, we get little moments from the trailers that didn't appear. It's not like Fantastic Four misleading, where they promoted this massive action sequence with the Thing right up to and after the film's release that then completely disappeared. But we get things like Katana's eyes changing color and her soul-stealing sword actually stealing some souls. El Diablo is seen in his cell, whilst in the movie he's introduced in a water tank. Extra moments of levity from the bar sequence are missing, including one of the Suicide Squad members requesting water.
That's a good idea, honey.
And there's also more moments of intimacy between Rick Flag and June Moon. By the way, before we talk the Joker and Harley Quinn, I just want to add that I am 99.99% sure that the soundtrack was added very late in the game. A lot of the times the music doesn't seem to fit the scene. I genuinely think this was added to make it more like Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, so both Margot Robbie and Jared Leto have confirmed that a huge amount of what they contributed didn't make the final version. There's little things that we know of, like the Joker hitting his head against the car window in frustration, but when you hear them talk about it, it sounds like this movie could have almost been entirely about the Joker and Harley. Margot Robbie even elaborated on a flashback scene between her and Leto that never saw the light of day.
And the backstory stuff, though, it's like magic, and some of the stuff we shot was like,
it was beautiful.
Insane.
Yeah.
They are flashbacks, and they're meant to be like, you know, snippets.
Yeah.
So there's a lot, but it just didn't make sense to confuse the current story, the present storyline, to incorporate all that.
Whilst she seems okay with the final edit, which I guess makes sense because she's still in the movie, Jared Leto was not so much.
Were there any that didn't get cut from the movie?
They got cut from the movie.
No, I'm asking you, were there any that didn't get cut from the movie?
And you know what? I can completely understand his attitude. He sunk into this role for 6 months. He mailed so many rats and condoms, and he did play a massive hand in developing the character. He mentions things like how he pushed for a scar smile that David Ayer ultimately rejected, and most of the Joker nuances are obviously his contribution. Regardless, just listen to him talk about his participation, how it left him ultimately disappointed, and how he believes that there's enough material to make a whole movie with the Joker just from his involvement.
I think that I brought so much to the table in every scene. It was probably more about filtering all of the insanity, because you know I wanted to give a lot of options, and you know, I think there's probably enough footage in this film for a Joker movie. If I were to die tomorrow, maybe the studio would roll something out, you know, a rated R or rated X performance in there somewhere.
So where did the Joker go after his helicopter crash? Who knows? But the trailer indicates that he returns, burnt on one side of his face, most likely to grab Harley. The rumor is that she refuses to go with him, as she's bonded with the team at this point, and in a failed attempt to convince her, uses a grenade to mount an escape. It also looks like the volatile relationship between Joker and Harley was toned down significantly. You may have seen the on-set images of a slap between the two, which does fit more in line with the comic book and cartoon adaptations of their dynamic. I'd say this was most likely removed because the studio thought such an abusive relationship might not sit well with audiences. There's one last thing I want to talk about, and this I find really interesting, and it might be nothing, but bear with me. The Joker Bat Hot Toys figure. The thing is with these figurines is that they rarely ever deviate from what appears in the final film. This though seems to be the exception to this rule, which makes me think that the Joker at one point turns up in a bat suit of his own design. Now this could be in a flashback or a dream sequence, but I find it weird that something like this was greenlit by the studio and then never seen in the film. So look, in the end, will we see what didn't make the cut? Some of it, almost certainly. Perhaps in its own Ultimate Edition, or even as just additional deleted scenes. Still, I can't imagine Warner Brothers are too upset with the box office numbers as of so far, and the general public response, even if the film is getting absolutely hammered by critics. I mean, you know, I thought it was pretty fun. And especially, you know, after all this, it's a miracle that it's as good as it is. Okay, let's get to the Loot Crate. and give one away. For less than $20 a month, you get 6 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, and unique items. Until the 19th of August, 9 p.m. Pacific, you can subscribe to get your box. But if you miss it, it's too bad. It's over. Just get over it. It's gone. If you sign up to lootcrate.com/MrSundayMovies and enter the code SUNDAY, you'll save 10% off any new subscription. And it also helps out the show, I think, in some way. I don't know the specifics of it. But look, the month's box is Anti-Hero, which falls right in line with Suicide Squad, as it covers when good guys go bad and unconventional protagonists. And it includes 100% exclusive items from DC Comics, Archer, Dark Horse, and Kill Bill. And congrats to this person who commented on my video from last week. You get this bloody box, mate. Just private message me with those details and I'll make it happen. Now, if you do want to win one of the boxes I mentioned, leave literally any comment below. It might be on something you wish made the cut in Suicide Squad, or maybe something you wish was left out. I don't know, like I said, whatever. And if you come back next Sunday, you can find out who won. Also, you can turn on notifications as a reminder if you do that, if you're a subscriber or don't. But hey, if you like movies and the like, you can check out my podcast, The Weekly Planet, where last week we went spoiler heavy on Suicide Squad in terms of what worked and what didn't. That's linked below if you care. Thanks for watching this though. I appreciate it. You're awesome. Look after yourself. Bye.